We are taught that wealth is a single continuous ladder. If you work hard, you climb. But a structural analysis of capital reveals that money operates as a series of separate systems, each with its own internal logic and hidden barriers. For those at the absolute bottom, money is purely a mechanism for survival. In this tier, net worth is often negative, and the primary objective is simply to endure the next 24 hours. You are effectively invisible to the broader economy, existing in a cycle where every resource is consumed by the immediate need for shelter and food. Moving into the $15,000 to $50,000 range provides an address, but the math remains predatory. Even with 40 hours of labor every week, nearly every dollar is spoken for before it is earned. Rent, utilities, and basic nutrition consume the entirety of your output, leaving your savings stagnant at zero. In this tier, you are never more than one emergency away from a total reset. A broken transmission or an unexpected medical bill isn't just an inconvenience. It is a catastrophic event that erases months of discipline and forces a choice between a roof and a meal. This stagnation is rarely a matter of effort. It is the mathematical reality of a system that requires a person's full-time labor just to maintain a baseline of existence. The rules of this game ensure that your time is traded for a subsistence that prevents you from ever accumulating enough leverage to leave. At this foundation, money provides no growth. It is simply a shield used to keep a rigid system from crushing you. Between $50,000 and $300,000, the game shifts. The immediate panic for survival is replaced by the long-term breathing room of the middle class. This is where traditional milestones are achieved: the 30-year mortgage, the retirement account, and the annual vacation. But while the daily anxiety over groceries disappears, it is replaced by larger burdens, like the escalating cost of higher education or the long-term management of debt. High-earning professionals, doctors, lawyers, and elite engineers, often believe they have reached the final stage of the game. They live in premium neighborhoods, drive luxury SUVs, and maintain a high standard of living that suggests total financial victory. However, this affluent lifestyle rests on a precarious foundation. Despite their high income, these individuals are often less free than they realize. Their wealth is tethered to their physical presence, trading 50 to 60 hours a week for a paycheck. If the labor stops, the system collapses. Within months, the income supporting this lifestyle vanishes. They have comfort, but not autonomy. Winning the traditional game creates a comfortable employee, but the underlying rules remain the same. Your standard of living is the anchor that dictates your lack of freedom. True financial decoupling begins around a net worth of $2 million. At this threshold, investment returns begin to replace physical labor. You own the high-end home and the luxury vehicle, but the capital itself is now the primary engine of your wealth. When your passive income reaches hundreds of thousands of dollars per year, labor becomes optional. You participate in the economy because you choose to, not because the math of your lifestyle demands it. As wealth scales into the hundreds of millions, it buys more than just objects. It buys total institutional access. This tier operates through private aviation, expansive staffs, and the ability to influence political and social outcomes through targeted philanthropy and lobbying. At the level of the deca-billionaire, an individual's personal portfolio is large enough to shift global markets. The decisions made by this small group dictate the development of entire technological sectors and the infrastructure of the digital world. At this scale, the objective is no longer consumption. Money is used to own the foundational platforms of the global economy, moving from a participant in the market to the owner of the market's core utilities. The absolute apex of wealth rivals sovereign power. These figures control resources that exceed the gross domestic product of many nations, allowing them to shape the long-term trajectory of global industries across generations. Looking toward the theoretical trillionaire, we see a level of wealth that functions as a self-contained economic system. This entity would control resources so vast, they would effectively dictate the future path of human development and resource allocation on a planetary scale. Once wealth moves past survival and comfort, it stops being a medium of exchange. It becomes a tool used to direct the very structure of our collective reality. For most of us, the path forward requires a fundamental shift in how we interact with these different rule sets. Transitioning out of the middle-class trap requires decoupling your income from your time. As long as your bank account depends on your physical presence, at a desk, you are playing a game with a hard ceiling. Mobility is only achieved by acquiring or building assets that generate value independently of your labor. This also requires prioritizing the construction of a financial fortress over a high-status lifestyle. Many remain stuck in the middle because they prioritize depreciating liabilities, like luxury vehicles, before establishing a capital base that can actually sustain them. True scale is achieved by moving from a consumer to a creator. The wealthiest figures didn't reach the top by buying products. They reached it by building the infrastructures that millions use every day. Moving up the spectrum isn't about working more hours within the same system. It is about understanding the mathematical barriers of your current tier and choosing to play by a set of rules that allows for compounding growth rather than simple labor. Money is simply stored energy. At the bottom, it determines your survival. At the top, it determines your impact on history. The first step to changing your position is recognizing exactly which game you are currently playing.